Outsiders. We are coming in with a massively weird energy, so let's acknowledge it right up top. I am your host, Bad Obsessive Chris, and with me is my co-host TJ, possibly for the last time. Just kidding. Anyways.
I've been angering Chris off mic.
Just kidding, listeners. I love him. And speaking of people I love, Jadzia Axelrod.
Hello. I've been watching TJ anger Chris off mic. It's been fascinating.
It's easier this week than usual, if that helps a little bit.
Okay. The Tim Drake kiss cover dropped.
Which is not what the episode is about. I feel like we need to
We're not talking about this, but
not
we
a Drake watch.
No, it's not a Drake watch.
There's some docket clearing we have to do before we talk about the meat of the episode, which you haven't even introduced.
We have to clear the air.
Yeah. Go look at the Tim kiss cover and then come back.
It's like issue 6. Tim's tongue is down Bernard's throat. TJ
my reaction was, is this Bernard? It could be a butch lesbian. That we can't see his face.
I straight up not gonna lie to you. Look at this costume. It could be Pied Piper.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be great. Honestly, if
the shocking twist.
Yeah.
Like I said, it would have been a big deal if this came out in December.
It's a big deal now.
It is. I'm just so...
Listen, I have been researching queer superheroes for months for the DC Book of Pride coming out next May.
Woo!
Yay.
And let me tell you, the amount of nudge, nudge, wink, wink that we have had to endure for decades has nearly driven me insane. So the fact that we have a cover with two men making out on it is like
full on making out, not a slight kiss.
It's a big deal. I'm laughing at the journey we've gone on of me and Jadzia completely switching places.
Well, Jadzia made it very clear that there were two things. Well, you could do one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we'll get both, but you said either a declaration of identity or tongue down throat.
Yeah, a makeout.
Two things.
True. All right.
And
it doesn't have to be tongue. Like, it doesn't have to be French.
I'm pretty sure you said tongue down throat.
I said makeouts. But like, I'm for tongue down throat. Like, that's a positive for me.
We encourage Tim's tongue down any man's throat that he
or
loves.
Receiving a tongue. Like, he doesn't have to be a tongue top.
True.
Like
that's
I said,
true.
I'm more excited about him maybe being in love with Connor 10 years ago. But that shows where my priorities are.
Go out.
TJ will hold on to queer baiting once we've even got actual queer rep. He's like, but let me be baited further.
And I didn't even like how it was confirmed. I'm just glad it was, possibly. Anyway, we're talking about something else that is gay and iconic today, Chris.
Yes, you know who's never voiced Tim Drake, but has voiced Batman. Kevin Conroy.
I just want to give you a little applause for that segue.
Yeah,
that was really
a good job.
Good. That was good.
Thanks.
Yes, we're talking about Kevin Conroy, who recently passed.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
All of us have a lot of feelings tonight, and not all of them are just TJ angering me. So
I want to start with another angering topic.
TJ's apology tour is coming.
Kevin's Pride story that we talked about earlier this year, I wasn't the biggest fan of it at the time. You know, I still don't love it, but I love what it is. And at this point, especially with him now being passed and like knowing that he was probably sick at the time when he wrote it, like just like I knew that he knew it was time to tell it then. And now I'm like, oh wow, like there's even more weight to it now. So like, anyway, I just want to say that I appreciate his story a bit more now, and everyone should go read it.
I love that story had such little resonance for you. Can I say, like, that sounds sarcastic, but I mean it from a genuine place, because you are much younger than I am, because I'm an old woman and you are a young spring buck running through the woods. And it's refreshing, really, to hear you say, like, I see this story about queer exclusion and queer trauma, and it's not mine. That's amazing to me. And I love that. I honestly do.
And I think more of it was that like it was the odd duck in the book because it was like I was there for my superhero stories. So when I got to
Yeah.
that, I was
It's
like,
almost
"Ugh."
like they should have given it its own section with a special intro that was separated off from the rest. Oh, wait.
So maybe
They
I judged
did.
it unfairly, is
Maybe
what
they
I'm
could have done a
hearing.
different art style to signal
Yeah.
that this was a different type of
Oh,
story.
Maybe.
Like
wait.
not, like maybe not made it as flashy
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
as brightly colored
Or
as
maybe
the
they
rest
should have
of it.
given like lots of trigger warnings so you'd understand. Oh, wait. Oh, wait, they did.
I'm feeling personally attacked.
It's because you are.
Right. So I do think I judged it unfairly. I will
Yeah.
say that confidently. But I don't want to say that I didn't connect to it at all. I think it's just that I didn't give it the chance to connect to it because I didn't want to put in the effort to connect to it, I think. Which is on me.
Well,
That's on me. But
again, I love that you had to put into effort in it. Like
okay, my
you had
big
to
thing,
like search through yourself to like, how can I
it was
connect to this?
nonfiction. Nonfiction isn't my thing. So I didn't really want to give it the shot that it deserved at the time, I think. And that wasn't fair of me.
You were not in the headspace to read it and you rushed it for the show.
Right.
That happens. That happens.
Yes. But with that specific like time period and the experiences in that time period, like I loved It's a Sin. Like the stories get me. I know that it was fiction though, so I could relate to it a little bit more and give it a chance.
TJ's like, I've seen Rent. Don't judge me.
I actually have not seen Rent.
No, we judge him. We judge him for that.
I know. Kevin is tossing right now.
I know. A Broadway actor.
I'm assuming he loved Rent. I know nothing about Kevin Conroy. We're here to discuss him and honor him. And I'm like, I will be upfront. Like, I wasn't a huge Kevin Conroy fan. Like his voice is Batman to me. And like, I think that's iconic. And I love that. But up until he came out, I wasn't a fan. And like when he came out, even then I was like, wow, like this is monumental. Like it's really cool to have that feeling that he's one of us. But like I wasn't you know what I mean? Like I wasn't a stan.
You're a Bat newbie. That's your position on the show, and
so
that's okay.
Yeah.
So my relationship to his passing, I think, is a little weird because I'm more sad that we were losing one of us. And like I wrote Mark Perez, a guest of our show who we love, and I was like trying to explain how I felt. And I was like, I don't want to say that we are grieving more than his general fans or his straight fans, but I think we are grieving in a different way as like the queer community of his fan base. And Mark was like, yeah, no, I get it. He was one of us. And like that really hit me when he said that, because I was like, yeah, like just that very like easy comment. He was one of us. That really hit me.
Yeah.
How old are you, TJ?
Oh no.
You've told me. I just want to know.
I will soon be 27.
All right. I just want to point out that Kevin Conroy had been voicing Batman longer than you've been alive.
Right.
And
this is true.
And that's wild to me for two reasons. One, can you imagine like being identified with a character for that long?
That's incredible.
That's incredible. And two, like you don't remember a time when we did not have Kevin Conroy as Batman. Like that was always something that was in your life. And that's a wild thing to think about as well.
Reading the page with Batman words, it was Kevin Conroy for me. Because when I was a kid, I was watching Batman Beyond, the usual stuff in the 90s. So it's weird for me to think about like, oh, like how did people imagine Batman sounding back in the 80s or whatever?
Yeah.
Differently. It's weird to watch like say the Super Friends show from the 80s or the Batman cartoon from the 70s, and it's more of an Adam West style Bat voice in the sense that it's very direct and like not campy, because that was the whole thing with Adam West, is that he was the only character not being campy and everyone else was being campy around him. So it was a very kind of playing it straight sort of direct, but it was not what has now become like the Batman voice for a lot of people. And it's just interesting to me that like he went from Batman the Animated Series to then Batman Beyond to then Justice League to the Arkham games to like all these direct to video movies, and like even playing it on an episode of Batwoman or Supergirl, one of those.
Yes, Batwoman.
Yeah,
It was
Batwoman.
Batwoman. It was
Yeah.
Supergirl was there, but I couldn't remember
Yes.
whose show it was. Yeah, even playing it in the flesh, and it was like it just, and I think that's why it hits so hard, right? Is because he's always been there.
Yeah.
And now he won't be voicing Batman anymore, which is a weird idea, even though we've had many people voice Batman since he started.
And I think my favorites besides him are like Troy Baker, and that's just because they do a good Kevin Conroy impression.
Right.
Let's be
Yeah.
honest.
100%.
So like, I feel like he will forever be the voice of Batman because people are just going to be trying to pick up the same magic that came from him.
Well, even like the Lego Batman's Will Arnett is doing like a exaggerated version of Kevin Conroy. Like he is our Batman. He really is.
You mentioned the Batwoman show. Ruby Rose posted a really sweet post about him that was just like, he was my Batman, like on screen and off. And like, it was very, very sweet. Like, I know some people have issues with her and that cast and that show and that feud, but whatever happened there, I was like, it seemed like there was a real bond between her and him. And I thought that was really, really sweet.
Yeah. How could there not be?
Yeah. He seems like he was so genuinely a good person, which is also impressive for somebody who's been a character for that much of their life to get out clean, if that makes sense. Everyone seems to genuinely love him.
He seemed very humble.
My wife bought a cameo from him when Galaxy came out. And the idea was that he would be welcoming Galaxy to the DC Comics universe as Batman, which was wonderful. And then after that was over, and the cameo was done, I mean, he did his money's worth. He continued to talk to me personally about creating characters in the fan reaction and how much superheroes tend to mean to people in a way that he wasn't expecting when he started, and how humbling that is. And it was really amazing, because everything he predicted about Galaxy meaning to people came true, which was incredible. But also, when I shared that, a lot of people talked to me about the times that he, similarly with Cameo, but also in conventions and settings and things, really took more time than anyone was asking of him to reach out and be there for the fan community and encourage people and really just understand the weight and the power that he had as far as people looking up to him and admiring him and not wanting to squander that and not wanting to make that be leave a bad taste in anyone's mouth as far as being a professional in that. And it's, you don't have to do that as a professional, right? Yeah, you don't have to go above and beyond. You can just say, hi, oh, it's very nice to meet you. This is great. And just, you can still leave people feeling good without going the extra mile that it appeared he did to every fan that came across his path, which is amazing.
I always say there's a difference between being nice and being kind. And one of my friends told me once a few years ago, and again, very simple quote, but it stayed with me. Like, it's not hard to be nice or it's not hard to be kind. So like, your cameo, like that's a big deal. Like, okay, I'm gonna tell my bad cameo story. I paid for a cameo from an actor I really admired when I was a teenager. He was doing it for easy money. And I've gotten some that are excellent. And then, so I kind of expected something good. I got it back. It was like 30 seconds exactly. So like, I know it was like, that had to be the minimum that he could do. And like, I gave him a lot of meat to work with and I barely got anything. And I felt kind of cheated. So,
well, TJ, that's because you're not supposed to give somebody the meat the first time you talk to them.
No, this is like, I get it. So anyway, I'm just saying that's amazing. Like doing that is a big deal. Like for him to do that, that is very kind.
For sure. Yeah, I was just now listening to his episode on the podcast Inside of You, which he just spends like an hour and a half telling his life story and how he got from Broadway to Batman and everything like that.
So I'd hate it. No, I'm kidding.
You would.
I'm
loved
kidding,
it.
I'm kidding.
You would though. I loved it, but a lot of it he was talking about. You know, when he came to Batman, he didn't know the character. He didn't even know the backstory at all. And they told him what Batman's story was, and he just goes, "It's Hamlet, got it," and then goes from there. But then like grew into realizing how important this was for everyone, how, important it was that he was a queer Batman and he got to, come out much later in life and have that be something for people before he was gone. And I think that's really significant.
Yeah. It was very empowering when he came out and meant a lot. Like me, I was a very casual fan when he came out. And even I remember just feeling like, oh, wow, like Batman, not that Batman is me, but it made me feel like I could be Batman or be a hero like Batman. And that was very empowering and nice.
Yeah. When I think I'm not being dramatic when I say the show wouldn't exist without Kevin Conroy, because Batman, the animated series, is the whole reason I became a Bat obsessive. So, and then, Batman Beyond as well, like really, really took me down the rabbit hole that ended us up here.
Oh, I loved Batman Beyond.
Oh, God, it's so good.
Have either of you revisited any of Kevin's performances recently?
Yes. Yeah. I was watching a lot today. Actually, just like today, I did a huge binge in preparation. I was watching Justice League and Batman Beyond and all kinds of things, and crying.
Yeah.
So, how about you, Jadzia?
Yeah, I mean, about the same. Like, been watching Justice League with my daughter, and I went back after his death to look up some very specific clips on YouTube that I remembered being very powerful from the animated series. I'm not a big Beyond fan like you guys are, so I didn't go do any of that.
That's fair. It hit us where we were age-wise. So.
Terry McGinnis is my man.
It's a different type of show.
Yeah.
And it's a show that has less sympathy for the villains on purpose. And that is something that I didn't like. Like, I wanted sympathy for the villains. And so
I think I relate him to that show a lot for me as a kid, because he was kind of like well, in the end, he ends up being the real father of Terry McGinnis. But like,
spoiler alert.
Yeah. For you as the viewer, though, he almost feels like a surrogate father to the viewer. So like he really, when I think of his work in the animated like show universe, like I think of him in that dad role. So like that, I feel like that means a lot to me.
That hits me
too.
And
he gave a great performance in that. I mean, one of the best line readings in all of animation history is when they're watching the Batman musical. And I think Terry's into it, and he says,
he would be
the dumb future slang that they have.
Sway.
And then Kevin Conroy and that beautiful gravel that he does, it's swarbage. and
Schwarbage.
And like, if I was handed that as a performer, I don't know if I could do it, right? Like, but he pulls it out, and
that's him, right? Like, he commits 1000%. I mean, Batman, what is it? Teen Titans Go to the Movies, right? Where he's being Batman in that one, and he's just like owning these horribly stupid lines, like, "Robin, where are you? I'm in your shadow."
Yeah, it's just he's an immense talent, and just
incredible.
One of the things that's wonderful about him having played the character in so many different ways and in so many different mediums is he has created such a kaleidoscope of Batman, like a multifaceted gem of a performance where I always joke that the character of Batman can do anything, right? Like, is infinitely elastic. You can put him in any situation and you can tell that story. You can put him in space, you can have him in an alleyway, you can have him punch Darkseid, you can have him deal with muggers. Like, it's all there. And Kevin Conroy's performance, similarly, infinitely elastic and can fit in a variety of contexts, be that the parody of Teen Titans Go or a serious, more dramatic take, and everything in between.
100%. I think one of my favorites when I was watching earlier today is an episode of Justice League Unlimited where current Batman goes to the future of Batman Beyond and meets the old Batman. And it's Kevin Conroy having an argument with himself, like back and forth banter. And it's the same voice, but it also isn't. So you know, totally, you can shut your eyes and follow the argument. You know exactly who's talking. And I just, incredible.
Which is the second time they do that in Justice League.
I know.
Because he argues with himself with a Batman from another timeline.
And there's an episode, I think, of the animated series, I believe it's Perchance to Dream, where he is playing himself, his younger self, his dad. It was like, it ends up being 5 different people.
Yeah.
And he's like every character in that one. It's incredible.
The clip that really got me, it was like the day after he passed away. So I was big into the Arkham games when I was a kid, but I was too young to really play them. And plus I'm a bad gamer in general. So this clip from the last Arkham game was going around. I don't know if I think I sent it to you, Chris. I don't know if you saw it, Jadzia, or if you've played them, but
no, I haven't.
The clip is like everyone finds out who Bruce Wayne is. Basically, Batman is at its end. And he just is on the rooftop after defeating the major villain. And he takes off the cowl, lets it fall. It's raining, and he just looks out over the city. And like, there's this moment where you're, you know, we always say how Gotham is like his truest love, and like, it was just so intimate and sad. And he gets a call from Gordon over his comm, and he's just like, "Thank you for everything," and he says, "Goodbye, Jim." I know. And then he hops in this little plane and the bat signal explodes. And it was, I know it's extra.
And he doesn't look at it because cool guys don't look at it.
Yeah, he's not even in the scene anymore. It just explodes behind him.
Yeah.
But just the goodbye, Jim, and looking out over the city. Like, yeah, so I own all the Arkham games and never played them. So I just started playing the first one and I'm 8% done. So that's kind of like how I'm paying tribute. I'm like, you know what? I'm finally going to play these Arkham games.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah.
I was also listening to today the episode Justice League where he does a lounge jazz song.
Yes.
He sings Am I Blue? And it is so gorgeous.
Am I blue? Ain't these tears in my eyes telling you?
I love that moment.
We talked about campy Batman earlier and how usually he's not related to campy Batman, but I was in my Scooby-Doo phase.
Oh, yes!
Right before he passed, and then he passed, and I was like, you know what? It's time to check out the Batman episode from the newest Scooby-Doo and Guess Who, because he voices Batman in that guest episode. Yeah, it's actually one of the last things he voiced Batman in. I was looking on Wikipedia, and he's basically playing the 60s Batman, and it has like the 60s mansion and the button in the statue head, the bust. It's like it's very much the 60s Batman, but it's Kevin Conroy. So it was very strange to hear him doing that iteration, but like it was fun. I liked it a lot.
Oh, that's so cute.
He did it all.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Do we have any other favorite moments we want to highlight?
I really liked his stint on Venture Brothers, which is not Batman related.
No,
but
that's
again,
good.
shows that sense of humor and that willingness to be silly, but also to go to the hilt as far as character goes and like really ground even the silliest stuff in genuine emotion.
Yeah. TJ, any more for you?
I told you I was going to bring up the horrible shooting that happened yesterday. I'm going to do it now. I feel like I have to, just because this has been on my mind so much. Like, this really hit me hard yesterday. And like coming right after the Kevin Conroy loss, like they were kind of mixed up in my mind. And then
Yeah.
I was talking about Mad Love, the episode last night, and all of these things kind of mixed together in my mind. And anyway, you can go listen to that on our friend JJ's podcast. But my point is, I went after this conversation and looked up whenever, and it's sad that this keeps happening. I feel like another shooting happened maybe 2 years ago. And then, of course, we had the Pulse before that. Every time this happens, I go back to the Love is Love anthology that came out. And there's a few pages that are Batman talking about like these homophobic hate crime shootings. And those pages are just so powerful. But I'm relating it to Kevin Conroy because when I read them, I read his voice, and knowing that he was one of us, like, you know, adds another layer, I think, to that. So I tweeted out those pages on our Gotham Outsiders Twitter. So go read them if you haven't. I think they'll hit you really hard.
100%.
We're all just staring.
I know. This is when we should have talked about Scooby-Doo.
Yes, we should have swung hard to the.
Not a hate crime. We should have talked about Scooby-Doo.
Well, no, we should have talked about the hate crime.
Was down for us.
We should have saved Scooby-Doo until after you brought
the
up
hate crime.
the hate
You
crime.
want a hate crime, Scooby-Doo?
No.
I'm taking this out of context.
I want the order to be,
Okay.
TJ brings us all down.
Then
and
talk
then
about camp.
We talk about Scooby-Doo. That's what I want.
Okay.
Yeah, we
it's
should
too
have
late
ended on the
now.
high note.
I'll swerve the car back around
No,
of the
it's too
lane
late now.
traffic.
It's too late now.
It's okay. I think our listeners will appreciate
to
it.
collide with the semi truck, but I swerved us back into our lane. It's okay.
Good job.
Thank you. And I will say, go listen to the Inside of You podcast episode, because I think it has everything you're going to be wanting, including his whole life story, but also some just truly hilarious stories from his life, including one in which he talks about his Broadway career and getting mad at a fellow actor, and the two of them literally getting into a fist fight on stage and never breaking character. So they're shouting their lines at each other while literally fighting for real. And the playwright came up afterward and was like, I don't know how you all read that into the scene, but it was a fascinating take.
Yeah, I really, now that I'm more deep into Batman and the mythos, like I really regret that I didn't get to meet him. Just even if I had seen one performance of his that I loved, just meeting the gay dude who played Batman would have meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
But just knowing that he was so awesome, is also good too, though.
Yeah, I kept hoping that we would be at a con together.
Yeah.
And then having both been in the DC Pride special, I'd be like, hey, we were in a book together.
You were co-authors in a
right?
way.
And then I could thank him for the cameo and all that stuff. And it obviously didn't happen. But yeah, I agree with you. Like I would have liked to have met him. Because like you said, he's one of us. And also as a huge fan of Batman in general and the DC animated universe, the Timverse, and everything really, and just of him.
Yeah.
Like it would have meant a lot.
Your cameo hits me pretty hard, so I'm sure it hits you very hard.
Yeah.
And that, like, I look at it as like, it almost feels like a passing of the torch to
you are Kevin
Batman
Conroy
and
now.
Galaxy. Yeah, like I know it's Kevin Conroy.
Jadzia is Kevin Conroy now. He wrote it
That
on
is the episode.
In terms of just like queer,
Do not make that the episode
I will.
title.
I would not do that to you.
just being a queer icon and being so meaningful. Like I feel like Kevin to Galaxy, like Kevin to Jadzia a little bit too, but like I feel like Galaxy is a big part of you. So saying Galaxy is saying you in a way.
Yeah.
Sonia, I just want to make you cry.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah,
sure?
well, you're getting close. Keep it up.
So that's how I read it. So I don't know if you read it that way, but
I do not read it that way because that would be very self-aggrandizing. And
that's just how it sounded from the outside looking in.
I'm a properly raised Southern woman. I would never consider such a thing.
We can aggrandize you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's how that word works, right?
but it did mean a lot. It did mean a
Mhm.
lot. And he said a lot of things that like really touched me at the time, obviously, because the book had just come out and it meant a lot for him to say that, but also that he to look at it now and to see it now and to hear those things now and to understand what he meant. Because before I had experienced how much Galaxy and the book touched people, I didn't really understand what he was talking about, but it sounded nice. And now to listen to it and really get that, it does change it. And like, again, I don't want to get into a deep parasocial thing because we have never met, we don't know each other, but it was still just a really sweet thing for him to say that he didn't have to. And I don't want to think of it as a passing of the torch because that's weird. Probably incorrect.
No, that's just how I read it.
Yeah, but it's definitely a welcoming to a larger group and not just Galaxy to the DCU, but me to this group of people who make superheroes happen for other people and what that means. And it was really special for him to do that.
I think it matters that at the end of the day, we'll go on reading Batman and it'll go on being his voice in our heads when we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, how can it not?
Right?
Yeah. When I think of Kevin Conroy, I will think he was gay and he was kind.
And he was Batman before I was born.
First came Kevin Conroy's Batman.
Or maybe I
And
should have
then
started with
TJ.
kind and then said gay. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. One of those things.
Well, Jadzia, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I'm always happy to be on this show, number one.
Aw.
No,
And
we hadn't
two,
seen you in a hot minute.
I know we spent so much time together over the summer that like
It's weird, right?
having months go by and not seeing your faces felt strange.
Let's not do that
Aw.
again.
Yeah, you have to come down for tacos.
Oh, we are. And we'll try not to fight as much. Yeah, where can our listeners find you? Are you still hanging on to the Twitter ship or?
You know, I mean, I'm not deleting the account, but I'm not there anymore. And
Yeah.
like, I'm actually not going to be on any other social media. I don't
Okay.
think it's never like I've been on it for like 15 years now. Cause again, I'm old and I was like, this has never been good for me. Like I've never used it in a way that has reaped any sort of professional benefits in the way that other people have. And it really just messes with my head in a way I don't like. So
Sure.
you can certainly find me on Twitter. I'm not really there. I do have other social media accounts, other places. I'm not really there either. You can find me on Instagram for sure, because I love posting photos. So Planet X at Instagram. You can find me at my newsletter where I talk about everything that's coming up with me and stuff that's Galaxy and DC Book of Pride related at tinyletter.com/planetx. And there's my website, jadziaaxelrod.com. So there's places to find me if you want to, but I don't think I'm going to be on social media.
As you were listing all the places not to find you, I was like, well, the real Jadzia, please stand up.
I was gonna say Jadzia's answer to where can our listeners find me? You can't.
You can't.
Cannot find me.
Don't try.
I keep saying if Twitter gets deleted, because everyone's saying where to find them. And I'm like, if Twitter goes, you will never see me ever again.
Right.
So,
yeah. That's kind of how I feel. Like, I think I'm done with that segment of the internet. And that's
I'm never putting this much effort
people.
Into another account.
Like,
I'm over here being the social media slut. I'm like, I'm on Hive, I'm on Mastodon.
You know, and if it brings you joy, that is great. I don't think it ever did for me, or if it did, it was in the very beginning. And then I just sunk cost fallacy the rest of it.
It brings me genuine joy, but also I have existential dread of being missed out on. So there's like a lot to get into.
I went back to Tumblr, my Tumblr that I made when I was like 15.
Is it the Glee one?
Yes, it started as a Glee Tumblr, and those
TJ, you're
posts
the
are
best.
still there. It will. I need to have if so. I'm going there if Twitter is gone. So like, it's
You're
gonna
gonna have to
need
do
it,
a deep purge.
but I'm not gonna start over because I can't completely start over
I gotta
because
find that
just
before
too
you
much
delete
work.
it. Take some
Right.
snaps.
So it's gonna need heavily edited. Like in the bio, it still says "lover of all things Joss Whedon," and I'm like,
Okay. Yeah,
right,
you need to update that one.
right. My Glee
Oh,
smut
boy.
is there.
You're
Oh, fanfic.
TJ, you're the best.
Yes,
You're the
fanfic.
best.
Fanfic?
I will say, I let a friend read this. Actually, I sent her I sent a friend a screenshot of it and was like, "LOL, I found my Glee fanfic." She replied with the image of her finding it on fanfiction.net and a thumbs up because since she had the quote, she could find it on Google, and she was like, lake water and spit is not lube, my friend.
Please send me this before you delete it. I need to read all
It's
of
on
them.
fanfiction.net too, so I will send it to you
Please?
anyway. This was a 15-year-old me. This is how I honor Kevin
Aw.
Conroy.
You know
Thank
what?
you.
He would appreciate it, I
I'm
think.
sure he
I think
would.
he would.
I suspect.
He
I
respects
suspect.
the power of fandom. So
He
like,
I bet
yeah.
he loved Glee.
Goodbye, Kevin Conroy. I bet you loved Glee.
All right. Until next time.
Bye.
I am Batman.
Thank you for listening to the Gotham Outsiders. You can find me, Chris, on Twitter at The Myth of Psyche, where I talk about feminism, psychology, and Batman, of course. But you can also find me on my new show at Thirsty Untune over on the Talking Comics feed, where Bronwyn and I review webtoons and drink wine and also review romance novels. You can also find me writing reviews at talkingcomics.com, and I am now accepting consulting clients. So if you need someone to do sensitivity reading or consult on psychology or queer identity, I'm your person. You can also find my co-host TJ
At Troyfin2 on Twitter, where I talk about books, gay things, gay books, and all sorts of things, including Batman pretty often, way more than I used to. And I recently became an official librarian, so you can find all sorts of book reviews that I post just for fun, a lot of advanced reviews of books that haven't come out yet. So if you're looking for a nice gay read, please hit me up. You could also find me talking on other podcasts just here and there if you search my name on any podcast service provider that you listen to.
And you can find us both talking about Batman all the time at the Gotham Outsiders. So join us next time. Same bat time, same bat place.